being able to afford a home, for example, for younger generations is a bigger challenge than it was for previous generations.
Agreed.
There are other
Agreed. I
things
think
like
that's
that that are
an
also,
irrefutable fact right now.
yeah, that are much worse for younger generations, and those trajectories seem to be getting worse for future generations. So where does the perception of scarcity come into this? Um, as opposed to the reality of actual abundance in where we're headed.
Okay, so let me do two things here. First of all, I think the one of the causations of that
Mhm.
that I just want to point out, because I agree that that's a reality right now. And I don't think of it as a scarcity, and we'll get to that in the second part of my answer. But the causation of the reality right now, the very real experience for people that, it used to cost 3 years' wages to buy a house. Now it costs 30 years' wages,
Exactly.
like
Yeah,
that kind of
that kind of
transition
thing.
we're going through.
Yeah.
Um, the causation of that is debt. And the reason debt exists as an instrument, and the reason we have the god awful modern monetary theory that we have right now, which basically says you can infinitely print money
Mhm.
as long as you pull these other levers, it'll be fine. Um, and I may be wrong about modern monetary theory. I don't know if it's as evil as I think it is, but I think debt is a instrument that is like alcohol to an alcoholic. And what I mean by this is like when someone experiences monetary scarcity, that someone's dangling, here you go, here's instant relief. Here's a bag of instant relief, and that bag is debt. It's like you can get, short-term payday lending, or you can get this credit card, or you can get this car loan, or you can get this home loan, and you can borrow the thing you don't have. And there's all sorts of things broken inside of this, and this is why I spent the last 7 years professionally in crypto, and I'm ejecting from that because I want to work more on syntropic principles that I'm putting together in this book. Anyway, um, the point I'm trying to make here about debt is that debt is the shortcut people try and take around scarcity, and it's actually created this huge debt, funnily enough,
Mhm.
against society, which is what we're experiencing right now with the cost of living. The causation, the problem is actually debt. It is actually the fact that we have money that exists purely based on debt. It is a it is not the design that empowers humans to be the best version of themselves, because it dangles this addictive type instrument in front of a bunch of people who've been taught, well, there's smart debt. You can have good debt. There's a good type of debt. Yes, there's a good type of alcohol too. There's a good type of all sorts of devices that change your state instantly,
Hmm.
right? Because that's what alcohol does, is it, removes your inhibitions almost instantly. Debt removes your money problems almost instantly.
Hmm.
It's that desire for shortcut that creates problem, because it takes the human away from their innate self and recognizing the opportunity they have to create value out of thin air versus having to take value from some other place so that they have it, right? They're ignoring their fundamental who they are at their core. Like, they're ignoring the chemistry and the alchemical capacity they have to create value and buy a house for themselves, for example. So, that's my first point on that question. Second point is, so I literally had a message this morning because I'm doing some research for the book I'm writing, and one of the things a friend put in front of me was this exact thing, which is like, hey, I want to go and get a home loan because I want to live near the city. And if I don't do it now, I never will be able to. That was the line of thinking of the inquiry.
Hmm.
And I think people people um people can choose that that's true, and they can go get the home loan, and they can jump in the rat race and live in that rat race for 30 years and go through that process right now. You might be some of the last people that are able to do that, right? it might be some of the last people, because I don't necessarily think the system's changing. I don't think alcohol is getting outlawed anytime soon. I think if anything, people are going to have more choices and more freedom, which means the not so good for you shortcuts are going to be more readily available in the future,
Hmm.
which doesn't necessarily make for great choices for people. But the the other opportunity we have is coordination, and this is something that the systems we live and operate in have that we might not have as individual cells, right? As individuals, we don't coordinate very well with others.
Hmm.
We've been taught that it makes sense in this society somehow. Like, you live in a suburb and there's probably 20, 30,000 houses around you in whatever your suburb or two or district is that you live in. And someone thought it was a good idea in the 50s with marketing to tell everyone that they all needed their own lawnmower in that area. And so you have 20,000 lawnmowers that sit there, not turned on 99.9% of the time. And then they get brought out for this like half an hour to mow this little tiny square in suburbia
Hmm.
and then put away into a shed full of other stuff that doesn't get used 99.9% of the time. And the fact that there's, 20,000 sheds that got bought to be put in the same suburb, that is nonsensical. There's trillions of dollars spent on these individualistic things and not necessary. Like, for example, the solution to that, and I'm not saying that this is where we head, but the solution to that is those 20,000 homes could invest in, a certain number of very expensive, uh, advanced robot lawnmowers and garden care things that go and automatically do everyone's lawn for them, and they're turned on all the time and at maximum utility and efficiency,
Hmm.
right? Rather than sitting dormant and being a cost to everyone. They could even go out and make money from other mowing other people's lawns at some point in turn. They could be a revenue maker, not just a cost. So that requires a bunch of things to happen, though, to get to that reality. It requires coordination. It requires choosing to not have to have this identity, that because the identity piece right now that says that it's a bad thing that people won't be able to afford their own homes in however many years in advance. The part of the identity there is that 2-year-old slamming his fist on the table saying, "Mine, mine. No, I don't want to share my toy." Like, it is the mine. And like, just paradoxically, I'm not advocating for, you know, I'm not advocating for communism. I'm not advocating for forced socialism or anything like that. Like, I am advocating for uh, individuals being decentralized and being in their own sovereignty self, however they want to be, but coordinating, using the power of many to work together to do things in more effortless ways. Like, I'm advocating for us using the devices we were born with, like using our emotions and our connections with people and our tribes and our communities and our cities and our towns more effectively. And I'm not, and I'm still, I think that's possible, but I still think ultimately, like, immense privacy, for example, is still possible. Like, I don't think you have to like blur all these realities together. I think we can still have our own individual homes, uh, our own privacy can be intact, our democracy can be intact, but we can start to coordinate things in better ways. I actually think that, my friend, particularly, who asked me about the house living thing this morning, this particular friend is an entrepreneur and wants to, wants to figure out a few things at once. They don't just actually want a home. He wants to figure out investing a little bit better because he's good at generating cash, but not good at managing cash to grow it.
Right.
And this particular dude has an exceptional network of people. Like, he would be way better off getting 10 entrepreneurial mates together, all putting in the money that they have, which is enough to buy a little site to do a property development to flip it,
Mhm.
and all making a profit, and then doing that 2 or 3 or 4 times, and all of them being able to buy a house without having to have a bank loan at all.
Mhm.
But when you think you live in a society where debt or the shortcut is the only way, then you paralyze your ability to look at your context through a different lens. And I think we're going to see more entrepreneurship. We're going to see more coordination of individuals as things start to get outpriced. Like, like when you look at innovation, you know this through design thinking very well. When you look at innovation, you look at the extremes, you look at the extreme poverty situations and see how people figure out how to do things. And you look at the other extremes, you look at extremely wealthy people and how they figure out how to do things. And what you find is that adversity is like, it's like petrol for innovation. So the harder it becomes to buy a house, the weird thing is simultaneously scarcity becomes more real and more not real. The paradox like spreads both ways.
Mhm.
Like, because you get innovation is driven at the same time as adversity. So you just get like these parallels that are pushed out. Like the whole room gets bigger and you can do more in it. So it's this crazy lens I have on it. But essentially what I'm saying is that you are like capable and you have deep capacity to just unbelieve scarcity's existence in a moment when you're really faced and confronted by it. And you know, coordination, I think, is one of the tools in the toolkit of how you fight scarcity. It's just one. Like, you know, um, yeah.
That was a phenomenal soapbox. I loved it. What a run. Fantastic.
Sorry.
I'm I'm really looking forward to, like, I'm so glad we had this conversation and recorded it, because every now and then you and I have such conversations and we don't record them obviously because we're just chatting. But man, I'm glad I recorded that one. I'm gonna go back and listen to it. And I think we'll do another 2 or 3 episodes just unpacking that that monologue.